This message is specifically for you, a chosen one. Those who need to hear this will resonate with it. You were meant to be eliminated by your enemies, but they underestimated your strength. Their every move was calculated, yet they failed to comprehend the force that propels you forward. You thrive in the shadows, defying expectations, driven by an unshakable purpose they will never understand. You are unstoppable. Your enemies sent two powerful energies with the clear intention of ending your life. They lurk, unseen, operating in silence while you feel the weight of something malevolent pressing against you. This isn't a casual misfortune, but an orchestrated assault designed to bring you down. The hardships you've been enduring are not random. They are targeted, deliberate attempts to unravel you. Every challenge, every obstacle placed before you is not just a test of endurance, but a calculated blow meant to strip away your will, piece by piece. You've felt it, haven't you? The creeping dread, the way your path is twisted in ways that defy logic. It's as if you walk under an invisible storm cloud that looms above you, waiting to strike. But the forces working against you underestimated the fire that burns within. They believe in their power, yet they cannot comprehend the sheer resilience that lies in your core, a force that cannot be extinguished. They send waves of doubt to erode your confidence, like tides grinding stone. But each time they fall short, you remain standing, battered but unbroken, and this infuriates them. Their energies are like shadows that stretch long and menacing, wrapping themselves around your moments of joy, seeking to suffocate them. They plant seeds of fear in your mind, making you question your path, whispering that perhaps you were never meant to succeed. They want you to believe in your own failure before it arrives, to see defeat where victory is just beyond the horizon. But you, chosen one, possess a clarity of vision they cannot distort. Even in the haze they've created, you see through their veil, aware of their presence without needing to name them. The forces against you thrive on chaos, attempting to turn every small misstep into an avalanche of despair. They revel in the moments when you stumble, believing those to be the cracks in your armor. But each stumble only serves to make you more agile, more prepared for the next attack. Every fall is a lesson, every bruise a testament to your ability to rise stronger. They cannot understand why their strikes land without victory. Their frustration mounts with every failure to bring you to your knees. Your survival confounds them. They have never faced a force like you, one who absorbs their darkness and transforms it into strength. They crafted their assault with precision, but their arrogance blinded them to the truth. You are not just surviving, you are thriving in ways they cannot anticipate. For every burden they cast upon you, you find a way to turn it into momentum, propelling you forward. Their energies clash against you like waves on a cliff, relentless yet futile. They cannot comprehend that you were forged in the fires of these hardships, shaped by the very forces they believed would destroy you. They believed you would be extinguished, lost in the storm they conjured, but they cannot fathom the depth of your power, the quiet, unyielding force that defies every attempt to silence it. You are not merely enduring, you are growing, evolving into something they will never be able to touch. Their attacks are born of fear, a recognition of your potential, but they have no mastery over your destiny. You are not their victim. You are their reckoning. The first energy attack came with precision, designed to dismantle your foundation. It hit like a sudden crack in the earth beneath you, splitting apart the stability you once relied on. Whether it arrived in the form of financial chaos, a sudden depletion of health, or fractures in your closest relationships, its purpose was clear: to destabilize your world. This energy was not subtle. It was a ruthless force, intending to shake you from your core, leaving you vulnerable, exposed. The losses you experienced weren't mere accidents. They were calculated blows intended to cripple your spirit. And yet, even as this energy took its toll, it failed. You didn't collapse under the weight as they anticipated. You stood, despite the whirlwind it created around you. Your finances may have seemed to crumble, your health might have faltered, and perhaps even those you trusted became distant shadows. But still, you remained unbroken. The energy sought to drag you into the depths, to convince you that the ground beneath your feet was eroding beyond repair. Yet, instead of sinking, you learned to navigate the shifting terrain with a resilience they never predicted. They miscalculated your ability to adapt. While they wove chaos around you, you found strength in the wreckage. They believed the first wave of disruption would render you powerless, but they underestimated your capacity to draw power from the very upheaval they orchestrated. The financial strain, the health setbacks, the ruptured connections with loved ones, each was meant to drain you, to hollow you out until nothing remained. But instead of draining you, these experiences honed your focus, sharpening your instincts. This first attack was a storm of disruption sent to blind you to your own power, to force you into a corner where you would forget what you were capable of. But they were wrong. You stood amidst the ruins, and in those moments, you discovered that your strength doesn't come from what you possess, but from who you are. Each wave that came to knock you down only revealed more of your core, a core they could not touch. Financial losses became irrelevant to the wealth of resilience within you. Health challenges could not dim the light of your endurance. Troubles with loved ones, though painful, only underscored the truth that your path is your own, and no external force could dictate it. This energy was sent to create fractures, to tear you apart from the inside out, believing that once isolated, you would succumb to despair. But instead of breaking, you built. You took every piece of disruption, every crack in your life, and used it to construct something stronger. You did not just survive the attack, you transformed in the midst of it. They sought to weaken you, but in doing so, they revealed your strength. You emerged from this wave not as they had hoped, a crumbled version of yourself, but as something more. You proved that their efforts could not strip you of your power. Their plan, so meticulously crafted, failed because they underestimated the force of your will. The first energy came to break you, but you rose, untouched at your core, more determined than ever. Chosen one, hear this, and hear it well. You are not meant to stand alone. The storm that tried to break you only revealed your unshakable strength. Now it's time to fortify your spirit with the knowledge and camaraderie of the true 144,000. The Obsidian Inner Order, in partnership with Astral Atom, is where warriors of light like you gather, and you shall join them. This is not just a community. This is where you connect directly with the creators, Mike and Ari, and the other chosen ones who know exactly what it means to walk this path. You were brought here for this moment, to stand shoulder to shoulder with those who have also been chosen. Inside the Inner Order, you will gain access to uncensored truths, content that we cannot and will not reveal on YouTube. These are truths that if you are not a true chosen one, you will not comprehend. If that's the case, you're better off moving on. But if you are ready, if you know you're one of the 144,000, then come in. Warm yourself by the fire and prepare to fortify your spirit with our book, Modern Manifestation Mechanics, and other revelations hidden from the masses. You'll be part of something bigger, something deeper, where the real knowledge flows freely. You've survived the trials, now it's time to rise higher. Inside the Obsidian Inner Order on Patreon, you will not only connect with like-minded souls, but you'll also have access to the wisdom of those who have been where you are. This is where you're sharpened, fortified, and prepared for the battles ahead. The truths we reveal here are not for the faint of heart. This is where the chosen ones gather to rise above the noise and embrace their true calling. That is www.patreon.com/obsidianofficial. You can find the link to the Patreon in the description. If you're ready to step into the fire to embrace the uncensored truth, then join us now. This is your time. The second attack arrived with an intensity far beyond the first, crashing into your life like a tidal wave intent on swallowing everything in its path. This time, your enemies doubled their efforts, gathering a force so immense it could be felt like the shifting of continents beneath your feet. They believed that where their previous strike had failed, this wave of energy, dense and suffocating, would succeed in drowning you. It was an overwhelming presence, a storm so fierce that it was meant to suffocate all resistance. This time the weight of the challenge was greater than before. It was not a simple disruption. It was a complete assault on your very existence, on everything that you are. The isolation was profound. Those who once stood by your side began to drift away, not by accident, but by design. Your enemies had woven an insidious web, manipulating those around you, distorting their perceptions, dulling their awareness of your struggle. You reached out, but hands that once lifted you now withdrew, leaving you in the depths of this battle, alone. It was as if the world around you became blind to your suffering, your silent screams unheard amidst the deafening roar of chaos sent against you. They couldn't see what you were fighting, couldn't sense the darkness encircling you. Whether through ignorance, fear, or the deliberate manipulation of your enemies, they became indifferent, their support vanishing into the shadows. You were left standing at the center of this storm, with no one to turn to, no refuge from the relentless surge. Your enemies believed this would be the end. They thought that this force, so meticulously crafted to break you, would overwhelm you. They expected the weight of this attack to crush your spirit, to reduce you to a mere shadow of your former self, buried under the rubble of their hatred. But once again, they failed to grasp the truth. They didn't understand the nature of your strength. They assumed that isolation would weaken you, that the loss of external support would drain you of power. But they could not comprehend that your power comes not from those around you, but from within. This overwhelming energy, this force that sought to strip you of your will, only served to ignite the fire already burning deep inside. When the world seemed to turn away, you turned inward, tapping into a well of strength your enemies could never touch. While the second attack swirled around you, consuming everything in its path, you stood at the eye of the storm. What your enemies miscalculated yet again was your capacity for resilience. The absence of others didn't diminish you, it only revealed the magnitude of your inner power. They underestimated your ability to endure without validation, without external support. You didn't just survive the attack, you thrived in the very chaos they sent to destroy you. They believed no one was there for you, but the truth is, you were always enough. Their manipulation of others, their attempt to isolate you, only proved how little they understood you. In their eyes, you were alone. In reality, you were never more powerful. What they sought to use as a final blow became the very force that sharpened your edge, strengthening you beyond their comprehension. They sent a stronger attack, but you, unshaken and unbroken, proved once again that their darkness could not touch the depths of your light. This was no random occurrence. The forces behind the attacks were deliberate, precise, and far more insidious than you first realized. These weren't merely isolated incidents of misfortune or the byproducts of a chaotic universe. No, this was a calculated strike, crafted by hands you couldn't see, orchestrated by forces that knew exactly how to destabilize you. Structured, patient, and meticulous, they worked in the shadows, pulling strings not only to disrupt your life, but to strip you of every support system around you, ensuring you'd face them alone. Your enemies were not simple adversaries. They were entities bound by a singular purpose, to end you. They understood that breaking your spirit wasn't enough. They needed to dismantle the very world around you piece by piece. They targeted not just your environment, but the people who were once your allies, twisting perceptions and dulling instincts until those who should have seen the truth were blind to your suffering. They crafted distractions so perfectly that those you leaned on were too caught up in their own illusions to notice your struggle. It wasn't apathy that surrounded you. It was a carefully engineered indifference. These forces manipulated the flow of energy, casting a net so wide and invisible that even the air around you seemed to shift in their favor. They turned your reality against you, creating rifts in relationships, sowing seeds of doubt where there was once trust. Those who once stood firm beside you began to falter, not by their own will, but by a manipulation so subtle they couldn't recognize it for what it was. They were used as pawns in a much larger scheme, tools to isolate you in a battle they didn't even realize was happening. And yet, while they sought to cast you into solitude, they only revealed how deeply they feared your strength. They knew they couldn't destroy you head-on, Their only hope was to weaken you through isolation, to create a world where no one else saw the storm brewing over your life. They believed that, without the support of others, you would falter. They wove their influence into the very fabric of your relationships, creating distance where there was once connection, turning confidants into strangers. But what they didn't understand, what they will never understand, is that you were never truly alone. Yes, they manipulated energies and people alike, but they could never reach the essence of who you are. The more they worked to sever your ties to the world around you, the more they revealed your innate power. They didn't realize that your strength is not dependent on the approval or presence of others. It radiates from within, a force they cannot touch, no matter how tightly they weave their web. Their manipulation of those around you was meant to drain you, but instead, it illuminated a truth they could not comprehend. You are the force they fear. Their attempts to leave you standing alone only proved how desperately they sought to diminish the power they knew resided within you. They may have blinded others, but they couldn't blind you to their game. You saw through the illusions, through the orchestrated chaos, and recognized the pattern for what it was. Their power lies in manipulation, but your power lies in clarity, in a resilience they will never understand. This energy came with the intent to end you, a force so massive and unrelenting it seemed to darken the sky itself. Your enemies thought they had found a weapon that would finally overpower you, a presence so vast that it would consume everything in its path. It moved like an avalanche, unstoppable, crashing into your life with full force, aiming to crush every last shred of your resolve. They were confident in this attack, believing that this time you would have no way to escape, no path to victory. But they failed to realize one thing: you were never truly fighting alone. While they gathered their might and launched their greatest weapon, unseen forces were moving in your favor. Divine forces that have always been with you, silently guiding your steps, shielding you from the worst of the storm. These forces were not bound by the physical world, nor could they be touched by the manipulations and energies your enemies wielded. They were present in ways your attackers could never comprehend, offering strength in moments when you felt drained, clarity when chaos threatened to overwhelm. As this energy pressed down upon you, it sought to envelop you in darkness, to suffocate the very light that defines you. The presence was so thick, it seemed as if the weight of it would crush you into the earth. But this energy, though formidable, was met by something greater. In the quiet, in the spaces where the enemy thought they had you cornered, these divine forces rose. They were subtle, powerful, and infinitely more resilient than anything your enemies could conjure. They had been waiting, watching, and when the time came, they stepped forward. The enemy's strongest ally, this energy they believed to be unbeatable, was met by the unseen power that flowed through you, around you. It wasn't a clash of equals. This divine force had been protecting you long before your enemies even set their plan in motion. With every blow the energy landed, divine power absorbed it, rendering it powerless against you. Every attempt to break you was met with a defense your enemies could not see or understand, a force that did not scream its presence, but worked in silence, dismantling the enemy's strength piece by piece. Your enemies, arrogant and overconfident, did not expect to see their greatest weapon fall. They could not comprehend how this energy, which they had invested so much in, crumbled before the very power that had shielded you from the beginning. It was not just a victory, it was a revelation of your true strength. While they relied on brute force, you were connected to something far greater, something they could never touch. In the end, their strongest ally was defeated, not by you alone, but by the forces that have always been with you, standing guard over you. They misjudged your resilience, your connection to the divine, and that was their greatest mistake. What they thought would be your end was, in truth, their downfall. You stood victorious, not because they were weak, but because your strength was always greater than anything they could wield against you. The storm that once tore through your life is finally losing its grip. The relentless forces that sought to break you have been vanquished, and now you stand on the edge of something extraordinary. The battle, long and unforgiving, is behind you. the weight that pressed down on your chest, the energy that seemed to wrap itself around your very soul has lifted. You've earned this peace, not as a fleeting reprieve, but as a rightful restoration, a victory carved out of the chaos. You are not the same as before. The trials and the storms that sought to undo you have instead forged something unbreakable within. Every battle scar, every tear has built within you a foundation that cannot be shaken. It is this strength that has opened the gates to the life you now face. The winds that once howled through your existence, tearing at everything you held dear, have calmed. Now the air is still, not with anticipation of another blow, but with the soft hum of peace. This peace isn't fragile. It's the hard-won peace of a survivor, of someone who has faced the darkest forces and come out on the other side unscathed. You are being prepared, even now, for a future that no longer holds the weight of constant warfare. The ground beneath your feet is no longer treacherous, no longer shifting with each step. Instead, it is firm, solid, a reflection of the journey you've taken to get here. This is your promised land, a space where you no longer need to look over your shoulder, waiting for the next attack. The enemies that once lurked in the shadows, the energies that once battered your spirit, are now distant memories, scattered like dust in the wind. The worst is truly behind you. That relentless pressure, that sense of being hunted, has dissipated. There is no longer a force trying to tear you apart. You have outlasted them, and their reach no longer extends to where you now stand. You will find, in this new chapter, that the rest you've longed for is not just the absence of struggle, but the presence of restoration. The pieces of your life, once fractured and scattered by the storm, are coming together in ways you never thought possible. The energy that surrounds you now is one of rebuilding. Every crack and wound from the past has healed into something stronger. You are no longer defined by the battles you fought, but by the peace you've earned. This isn't merely a moment of quiet before another storm. It is the beginning of a life no longer bound by conflict. You've crossed the threshold from survival to thriving, and this is where your true power lies. You have been prepared for this, strengthened not just for survival, but for flourishing in the calm that now envelops you. The battlefields have disappeared behind you, and ahead is a landscape of limitless potential, where your every step is no longer weighed down by fear or resistance. Peace is not just a state, it is your new reality. The battles are over, and now, you will walk in the light of the life you have always deserved. These were the last of the enemies sent to destroy you. They marshaled the strongest forces they could summon, believing that this time they could finally break you. But their efforts crumbled in the face of your unshakable strength. They underestimated you over and over again, failing to grasp the magnitude of your power. What they thought would consume you has only fortified you, and now they are nothing but shadows, faded remnants of a failed assault. You are divinely protected, and nothing of this nature will ever threaten you again. The forces that once sought to pull you under have been defeated, their power rendered useless against your growing strength. They will never return because they have no path back to you. The bond between you and the forces guiding you is unbreakable. And now, you walk forward with the assurance that no enemy, no matter how formidable, can ever touch you again. Your enemies are no match for you. They never were. And now, their defeat is final. You have not just survived, you have won. The last of their strength has been spent, and it was not enough. You are free, standing in your full power, untouchable and unwavering. They can no longer reach you, and this victory is yours, earned through resilience and sheer force of will. Now, it's time for you to share your story. The world needs to hear how you overcame, how you stood firm when everything conspired to pull you down. Speak your truth, for in doing so, you will inspire others to recognize the power within themselves. Your story is not just one of survival, but of triumph. It's time for your voice to be heard.